may not have realized it when you stepped in the room today, but you are part of what we now refer to as the spatial business community. And we really want to hear from you, understand what is impacting you in your business and what you're trying to achieve for your goals personally, inside your organization, and also your corporate goals around digital transformation. Again, addressing some of those challenges we heard, one of the things we did last year was to strengthen and kind of bring together a collection of very key representatives from different industries and different regions across the globe. We refer to that group as the Esri Business Advisory Council, and it's my pleasure to welcome two of our founding members of the Business Advisory Council that kind of keep us on our toes and make sure we're doing the right things that we should be doing in regard to helping support this community. Grant Mullins and Greg Katz, if you would please come forward. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. We just happened to have, for everyone's reference, our second annual Esri Business Advisory Council yesterday. And we have been dialoguing and keeping the energy going all year since Business Summit last year. I do want to say these two gentlemen represent two of our members of the Esri Business Advisory Council. Many others are in the room. If I could have you stand up, I'd certainly appreciate it, and let everybody put eyes on you. So there's a collection of 20 individuals spanning multiple industries and geographies, but these two gentlemen were the ones that kind of initially put the pressure on us to act. Do you want to have a few words, Greg?
Actually, beauty before age. I'll let you go first.
Fantastic. Yeah, so as one of the founders of the Business Advisory Council years ago, when Helen sort of pulled us out of the masses and brought us together talking about the greater community here, that's one of the things, if you guys have ever talked to me, that's something I'm passionate about, just that using this group, not just as us coming and listening to Esri deliver all this great info, but to use the time for us to not just network, but to talk about common problems and solutions. And we did some of that yesterday, right? We talked through something that's near and dear to my heart, the whole what keeps you up at night topic. There seems to be a lot of that going around, climate change being one of the big ones for us right now. And we talked through that. And so my challenge to you guys, and I think I've said this numerous years now, is to take advantage of these times to talk to each other, not just to listen, but to talk about the things that are keeping you up at night. I guarantee there are other people out here dealing with the same problems who may have novel solutions to and approaches that you haven't thought about. So please take advantage of this. And if you have ideas and questions that maybe we could help with, I know Greg, he's a wealth of knowledge. So please find him with all the hard questions. Find me with the just straight up networking and hanging out.
Touche. So there was a lot of conversation at our meeting yesterday about disconnect, or the feeling of disconnection between GIS and analytics and spatial and the C-suite. And so we spent a lot of time talking about, it was interesting, most everyone in that room doesn't really use GIS terminology anymore. They don't call themselves GIS. Call location or location analytics or spatial analytics, whatever it is, but the term GIS is kind of, from a commercial and business standpoint, is kind of being moved to the side because there's a big disconnect between I think what the C-suite sees the ability of GIS to do and a true understanding of what it can do. So one of the things that kind of around that's taken place, and it took place actually earlier this year, was the Spatial Business Academy. And the Spatial Business Academy was done with University of Redlands, and it was a really interesting, it was a pilot program, this first one, and it was a really interesting way to hear some of that disconnect and to really find a way to bring together C-suite and leadership with GIS and location analytics. And it was what, 2.5 days? It was about 2.5 day program, and it did a phenomenal job of understanding the differences, but also empowering the GIS folks that were in that class to better be able to communicate with the C-suite and with leadership to drive initiatives forward. So it was a really cool thing, and I encourage all of you, if you find Tom Horan around out here from the University of Redlands, where is he, back there?
Straight back.
There you go, back there. I really encourage you to pick his brain about how and what's happening in that regards, because it was one of the biggest themes that came up from yesterday's meeting.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Again, appreciate everything you do for this community. So, hands here. And with that, I'd like to introduce and bring to the stage someone who you all probably know very, very well, or the aha person of our team. Ask Helen anything. She's my better half at all times at Esri, and certainly couldn't be doing all the accomplishments that we've been doing, and I just want to give her a huge kudos. I feel like you're the heartbeat that keeps this community going, so I certainly appreciate everything you do. And she's going to bring on stage one of our other very valued academic partners in the community. We feel like this talent gap is something that we really want to be assisting and helping and guiding, and I know Helen and Charles will have more to say in that regard.
Well, thank you, Cindy. And there's the clicker. So one of the things that's happened in my journey, my digital transformation journey at Esri, and this community journey has been the focus on how do we reskill the current workforce. You know, you'd have heard yesterday Jack talk about the next generation of spatial thinkers. Generation next is really important, but businesses need generation now. What we're seeing is this huge gap in the capabilities of understanding, interpreting, and using data to communicate with data and do something with that data that actually attracts the attention of the C-suite. If there's one thing you've taken away from Mariana and James's speech and their presentation, is that we have to do this. And Enrique and Patrick are examples of people doing this. Enrique came here last year to the Business Summit in UC, brought a team, and for an hour and a half, that team bugged me about how do you do this, 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 show us, show us, show us. They went away and they did that. In November of last year, in the user conference that we had in New York, Patrick presented and then he said, I want to do this. I want to build a 3D system and I want to put infographics and demographics as part of that. We can do that. He didn't say, can we? He said he was going to do it. And what both these organizations represent is this fundamental transformation of their organization for letting people grow. If you don't let your teams grow, they're going to leave. If you don't understand that retention is your #1 problem, then you've not been paying attention. What I've been focusing on for the last year and a half at Esri, as well as my other work, is how do we transform that? The Spatial Business Academy was one example, because this is happening today. Walmart, most of you don't think of Walmart as a company that's transformative, but they employ 2.3 million people. That's 1% of the US workforce. And they are committing billions of dollars to transforming their organization. There is no such thing as the retail apocalypse. What we have is constant evolution and revolutionary disruptive technology. And Walmart is one of the organizations that understand those dynamics. And another organization that truly understands that, and our partners in transforming organizations, is Brandman University. So I want to bring up Charles Bullock, who's the provost of Brandman. Brandman are an award-winning university which is focused on transforming organizations through education, both online and on campus. And we've been working, for now, a year or so on this vision?
Yeah, over a year.
Yeah, and actually last month, we signed the first agreement ever between Esri and a university to bring the university into our partner program. So I'm delighted to announce that officially, Brandman are an education partner in the partner network. But this vision's also incredibly important to you. You know, why is Walmart's vision, why does that matter to Brandman?
Well, probably the primary reason is Walmart is one of our major customers. Like Mariana said, you've got to be customer-centric. and you've got to listen to your customers. And Walmart is very concerned about automation of their workforce and therefore upskilling their workforce to be able to compete in the 21st century. So one of the things that we do is we work with Walmart, Disney, Discover, other major corporations because we deliver cutting-edge, relevant degree programs.
And we've talked a lot about this skills gap. You know, data's the new oil, right? We both believe in that. And another survey identified these 5 areas. You know, why are these 5 important to these people in the audience?
Well, I mean, this is what creates competitive advantage. We've talked about competitive or differentiating benefits, but these are the areas that really can't be automated. So this is what's going to require human touch in the future. But if you look at it, it connects very well to what Esri does and what we see as the future of education in terms of skills. The number one that you see is interpret, visualize, and communicate with data and analytics. Obviously, what you've seen today and yesterday is the ability of GIS to transform from a digital standpoint, but be able to tell that story. Keep in mind that 2/3 of the population are visual learners. So what better way to teach and learn is through GIS. Another key component is the design skills. When you look at design skills, you're talking about creativity. Now, not all of us can be creative, but again, we can teach that with certain tools, and obviously the 3D technology does that for us, and we've seen it in today, just in the commercial real estate business, and the ability to 3D that stuff.
And design's more than making something look good, right? It's thinking about prototyping and failure, and then coming back and redesigning for success, right? Having those conversations. And you guys are very focused on that from a soft skill perspective.
Right. And it's, as we said, it's really about, you heard it today, it's about that user experience. But yes, we've heard, we're just up the road in Orange County. Even though we serve students across the country through our award-winning online programs, the business community has told us that even IT folks, the key thing is those soft skills, written communication, team building, interpersonal skills, and project management, for example.
So when we think through, we talked about talent, right? The issue about talent, everybody says just go out and hire people, right? Is that an effective strategy?
Well, that's why we have a talent shortage. And if you have a shortage of something, the question is how much are you willing to pay? You could build a small data team through hiring, but it's not a success. If you're going to build a sustainable organization, you've got to be a data-driven organization, which means building that throughout the organization. And really the research is pretty clear. I think it's Forrester and others that said the future of workforce is really about hybridization of jobs, is that you're not only going to be an engineer, you're going to be an engineer like Enrique, but learn to use data to make decisions. Or like Mariana in marketing with an engineering background who knows how to use data to make decisions. So it's that hybridization that's going on. And the reason Walmart and others are looking at it is because they're using their educational assistance benefits for the first time, their tuition dollars for the first time as a strategic asset to ensure that their workforce gets these skills across the board. And that's really what we're helping them with.
So for all of you who are customers of ours and your reps, have you had a conversation with the Esri rep about training and development dollars? Do you know the dollars which are available in your organization to do formal education with people like Brandman, the sort of boot camps we're doing with the University of Redlands, or all the different learning pathways? Because the key thing that we're seeing from Forrester, McKinsey, Burning Glass, all of these areas, is that talent is going to be the #1 differentiator. And in the last year or so, one of the things that we've worked really heavily on between the two organizations is to close that gap. And Jack basically told us to figure out how to make Brandman the world's first spatial university. And you've done an amazing job of doing this. So for the last few minutes, do you want to describe the vision?
Yeah, I think what's good is we've got a common vision. Our visions are aligned as we do see the world as digital, and essentially that GIS can transform and move us in that direction. And of course, the biggest challenge is having a workforce that's capable of using these tools, which are the power to change everything we do. And so at Brandman University, a nonprofit university, again serves students across the globe, is that we are focused in two areas, not only about developing or educating the next generation of workers through degree programs, but it's also something we're very passionate about is workforce development, is building pathways from whether it's Esri training programs or pathways from corporate training programs. One of the things we've done with Walmart, for example, is they've spent billions of dollars on Walmart Academy, their in-house training program, and we've actually articulated that so that they get credit for prior learning experience. So by building pathways from what they already know to what they need to know, we're filling in those gaps from a competency-based standpoint. So we're taking it out of the geography department. Obviously it's going to stay in geography, but it's moving it and expanding it across the university, particularly to business schools, to social sciences. Dr. Sheila Steinberg is one of my faculty in social sciences. She's an Esri Press author. But again, it's one of the things that we're moving pretty quickly to becoming a spatial university, not only in our business school, in our arts and sciences school or social science programs, but across the institution.
And this is incredibly exciting for Esri and hopefully for all of you, because the ability to deliver on this promise, to come back to your organization and say, this isn't just about technical certification and learning at Esri. This is about closing that gap, as Charles described, between what they know and what they need to know. So I want to thank Charles and Sheila and for everybody at the university for their support of me in the last year, to Tom and the team at Redlands for the Spatial Business Academy, and for all of you for being here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.